Hello and welcome to the Matt Belair podcast and Google Hangout show. Today's guest is a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society hero who spreads his transformational strategies of wellness to major clients like United Healthcare, Nationwide Insurance, and the University of Michigan. As a certified Tony Robbins, Chloe Madana's life coach, speaker, and writer. Close? Is it close? He has inspired thousands after surviving non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, after losing his singing voice and being told he had a 15 to 30% chance of survival. Now in complete remission with his voice restored, he's been featured on PBS, NPR stations, The Huffington Post, Addicted to Success, Life Hack, and The Buddha Brain. As the creator of KIP TV and soulfeed, a new and noteworthy podcast on iTunes, he's interviewed leaders like Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Sean Korn, Carolyn Mess, and more. He is truly an inspiring individual. Welcome to the show, Alex Kipp.
Woo! I love that. I love that you messed up the intro because we talked about it so much beforehand, and that's the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no editing.
All about the truth here.
Yeah, this is the real. There's always like one shot, and even doing the Google Hangouts, it's like, damn. I was like, with the editing bit, I was like, screw it, man. I was like, mistakes happen, whatever sound. I'm in Barcelona, and always about this time too, when I was thinking for the podcast, there's a crying baby, like on point, 8 p.m. I'm in this apartment in Barcelona, and just this baby. So I'm hoping. I was like, no baby, but we'll see how it goes.
No, I love it. And you're brave because we never do our intros live, but we should. Why not?
Sounds nice. People are listening to the podcast and it's all perfect and structured. Man, how we met, I think it's interesting because I'm always looking for excellent material. I like podcasts. I like conscious websites. I like anything that's, spreading the vibe, man, spreading the love. And I can't remember where the heck I came across the soul feed, but I came across and I was like, how the F did I not know this existed? And that's when I reached out to you and we connected, and the rest is history. And just I love what you're up to, man. You're an amazing guy. Your podcast, definite must listen. You have so many heavy hitters on there. You guys ask really great questions, and it's so valuable and so inspiring.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And yeah, how the F didn't you know about it? That's the question we're always grappling with. We got to get more people to know about it.
Well, we went on this. We talked a little bit about this, about you couldn't even find the soul feed. You didn't even meta tag soul feed. So you could search. You're just oh man, just the basics. So I think you've got that sorted now, right? We sorted that out for you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the soul feed, it's a co-hosted show with my partner co-host Shannon Algio, and so for most of this time we've really just been promoting it through our own personal brands, you know what I mean? So all the episodes will be on my site and also on his site. So just recently we realized no, we got to have a site for the soul feed, for soul feed podcast. So now that's just opened up a whole new can of worms, and it's always that balance of where do you focus your energy, where do you put your time and money and efforts, and so that's why you couldn't find it.
yeah it's a million different things too, and with me not being technically savvy in the least, luckily my good friend and mentor Michael Lozier helped me figure out how to do the Google Hangouts, and once you get it, it's okay, but just the beginning processes is bloody nightmare.
And I had Michael on the podcast thanks to you.
Oh yeah, how was that? He said it went well.
Great. He's like the law of attraction expert, if you listeners don't know, and he was hilarious, dude.
He's hilarious.
He's
so good.
The corniest interview I've ever done, in the best way. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know. Yeah, he just, for him, he's such a great dude. He as far as training goes, he is you are learning and remembering and able to apply the law of attraction. Even if you get him for 15 minutes, you're getting value. But when you interview him, he's always in training mode, So it's hard to it's so good, man.
So funny. I'm like, is this an interview or are you just literally doing your seminar? Because that's what's happening right now,
Yeah,
But
totally.
it
Yeah.
worked. No, it's like people are gonna learn, and I definitely learned a lot. So yeah, it works.
Yeah, and that's his value too, right? I hate when, well, I don't enjoy when I go somewhere and let's say like the book, The Secret. Nothing wrong with The Secret, very inspirational, super awesome. However, if I read a book and that I don't get any strategies on like how to apply it, and it just inspires me, I kind of like, I'm just like, why did I read this? Where for, if you look at The
Oh,
Secret and you look at his book, you know, just all simple tools and strategies that I still use now and still coach now because they're just simple, easy to use. And it's like, oh man, of course.
totally, man. And I love that you said that because I'm all about strategy. Like I love strategy. And in some ways, I've had to learn sort of the opposite things, you know, like the law of attraction and like allowing the divine to work through you and move through you and tell you what your next step is instead of over strategizing and thinking 10 years ahead and then realizing, okay, I don't need a 10-year plan. I need a 10-minute plan. What am I going to do in the next 10 minutes? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I love that you brought that up because it is this balance, right? Where most people are just fed this sort of inspirational woo woo whatever, but then they don't know how to actually like bring it into their life and make it practical. And I spent a lot of years like sort of just like meditating on what I wanted and, you know, feeling the attraction and feeling the vibe of what I wanted to bring in, and nothing was happening
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have any strategy. I wasn't actually going out there and doing the things I was thinking about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's an interesting space too because people will call it woo woo because it's all in the mind and nobody knows for certain. It's not like concrete where in woodworking, you know, or mathematics or something. It's very concrete and you can see it. So when you're meditating or visualizing, it's kind of what I go through. And my hardest thing with sports psychology clients is number one, you know, athletes will come once to, you know, sports psychologists once they're messing up. They don't realize they can use their mind and all these amazing tools to go next level, right? But when there's a problem, then they're like, oh, okay, now I'll come. And then the second thing is to get them to visualize for an extended period of time because they're not actually physically doing anything. But studies show repeatedly that the best thing that you can do to hardwire the mind and body is to visualize it. And this concept works for all things. But it's like you feel like you're not doing anything. So you really need some sort of like proof. But really, the proof is once you start doing it.
Absolutely, because you're gonna discover and learn so much more in actually doing it. You know, because you can conceptualize and feel it in your body and feel the energy shift and all these things, but until you're actually out there doing it, it doesn't. It's not manifesting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Michael actually, when I brought him on, had this perfect analogy of like, yeah, you go to the restaurant, right? You put in your order for the pizza. You're not going to sit there and think, why isn't the pizza or, you know, why isn't the pizza coming or what, like what's going on? Or like I ordered a pizza, it's not on its way. You know that the pizza's coming unless you have really horrible waitress or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then what was interesting, what he didn't talk about, which I kind of like added on, is once the pizza gets there, you got to eat it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love
Like
it.
you gotta eat it. You like because that's the thing. It's like, you know, yeah, the universe will bring things into your life and will show you all these signs. But if you just let that pizza sit there in front of you and you don't take a bite, then who cares? And
Yeah.
that's so often what I see happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how would you like, let's say somebody's trying to like, just say manifest like a job or a relationship, where would you see like the common, where do you, because you do a lot of coaching, you've worked with a lot of people who do seminars, you're just a, you know, self-development badass. You've worked with a lot of people. What are some common, you know, problems or mistakes or just things you see where people either are not getting the things they want or, you know, they have like a stumbling block that is easily overcome or difficult?
Well, I think what's frustrating is that the answer is much simpler than like we allow ourselves to believe. And it's just get started.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, just get started, please. Like, just start.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like not your 10-year goal. What's your 10-minute goal? Like,
Mm.
what are you gonna? Okay, great. Because this is the thing. It's like, I have these amazing coaching calls and these amazing clients, and on the phone, it's like we have this breakthrough over Skype. We have this huge breakthrough. They know what they got to do next. They know where they're headed, but then they don't do it. You know. And so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's two things. One, they've got some kind of story they're telling themselves about why they can't do it or about why it hasn't worked before. Or two, they don't have the right strategy, which is a big thing and which I'm really, good at. Like, because first off, hold on, this idea of strategy too, first off, there's never the perfect strategy, right? There's
Yep.
never the perfect strategy. You can only see what's in front of you. If you're driving in the dark, you can only see what's in front of your headlights. You can't see the whole thing, but you can see far enough to know that, like, okay, I should go right or else I'm going to hit this trash can.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the way that I compare that is like if you wanted to go to the gym and you're really out of shape and you're really, maybe obese and your health is terrible, if you go to the gym, you're going to start getting results. You might not have the perfect program, but if you
Exactly.
start going, then, things can start to happen and you can refine your program and you can start to learn and grow from there.
Exactly. And a lot of times, and this is number 3, it's just, it's just the fear of the unknown.
Mm.
It really is. And so it's either one, they've got some big blocks coming up. 2, they don't have the right strategy. Or 3, it's the fear of the unknown. And for me, fear is fuel. Like, period. If
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, dude, I wake up every day and I tell people this and they're like, that sucks. But like, I kind of wake up every day like kind of a little like scared. You know what I mean? Like, not like literally like scared for my life or anything like that, but like a little like nervous. Like, oh man, I gotta figure some stuff out. Like, ooh, like, is this thing gonna work? But it's exciting. It's like fuel because you realize that the only way you're gonna grow, if you're not growing, you're dying, as Tony Robbins always so famously says. But it's true. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying. It's atrophy. Just like with your sports clients, right? If they don't work out that muscle, it's gonna atrophy. It's gonna die. It's gonna die out. So it's the same thing. You have to just start doing it and realize that fear is fuel and realize that fear is actually your deepest soul's calling in many ways because we're afraid of becoming the most brilliant version of ourselves because the idea of not becoming that and trying to become it and then failing is really scary.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what is when you're saying, fear is like, well, this isn't what this is about. It's about being at peace. But
Right.
the reason that you said that, which you added on to, was because you're a bit fearful and nervous because you're pursuing what you know that you need to pursue. You have like you're vested in it, and not for like identity or self-worth, where like Alex Kipps needs to do this so then he can be worthy. It's like, oh my God, like this is who I am and this is like what I'm doing and this is like I'm pulling this way. So you're nervous because you want it to be good and you want it to be great and you know that this is the thing that you have to do and you're going to do. So of course you're a little bit nervous.
Yeah, and look, this is the thing, and this is what I find is very interesting, like being very consciously aware, like you are, like I am, like other people are, is this idea that like we're not supposed to feel fear,
Mm-hmm.
that we're always supposed to be at peace, or we're always supposed to be in our being, in our center, in our, attracting all that. And yes, that's true, but at the same time, if you think about it, anyone who has been called by God or the divine or however you want to put it, love, however you want to put it, was scared.
Yeah, man.
Moses, he got to that freaking water and he's like, what am I going to do? They're going to kill me. Jesus, before he was crucified, I mean, whoever you want to think about, even if you just think about modern day examples like freaking, who's the Tesla guy?
uh Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yeah. he made all this money, and then he literally took all that money and invested every single cent into his next project and literally had to ask people to pay for his rent. You don't think he was scared doing that?
Yep.
But that didn't stop him.
Yep. Totally. And the same, Yogananda, it doesn't say this really. I don't think I read it a long time ago, the autobiography of a yogi, but I recently watched the documentary, and he comes to North America and he does all this great stuff, and religion's a lot heavier back then than it is today. So, he's talking about peace, and yeah, it's, it's Indian tradition, but it's a little bit more open and more love and more, we're not just like segregating, like this is the God, this is the way, it's much more open concept. And so he did all these amazing things. And then one of his, right-hand man or somebody said something about, inappropriate women touching or an event. I don't know if it happened or not, but basically all of his schools and all of his honest, genuine work just went down the shitter. Right. And he's just like, then he just sits and he prays and he's like, I don't even want to be here. I want to be back in India. And basically in meditation, God is like telling him, or his, source and all that is like, look, bro, like you got to stay and you got to keep helping these people. He's like, damn it. Like I want to go home, but follow the heart. So, that's going to crush you, right? Because you're invested in it. And it sucks that you, as a society, people want to tear down those beautiful things. We always want to look for these, ways to tear it down when rather we should be looking at building things up. And then if somebody's doing something, that you're not interested, as long as you're not harming anyone, let them do it. Don't worry about it. Focus on what you want to do.
And sometimes you have to be torn down to build up.
Totally. And this is,
this is totally congruent with my story, but also with so many other stories, like that story you just told, right? It's like, yes, you will be tested. And that's just part of every hero's journey. Literally, Joseph Campbell's work talks about this, the hero's journey. Every movie you ever see that like Star Wars or any movie that you're like so inspired at the end and you're like, yes, I'm going to go out and do it. They all have that hero's journey structure where like there is a drop, there is a test, and you're being called to a new adventure. And most people don't accept the calling. And those that do, it's not easy after that either. There's all kinds of tests within the calling, right? Within that new world. And the reason I'm talking about this all so much is because I'm writing a book about it and like very intentionally kind of structuring it around the hero's journey. And as I was doing it, I realized, holy crap, my life literally follows this structure like to a T. It's so weird. Mm-hmm. It's so weird.
Yeah, man, it's so true too. It's like so many things I wanted to say about that. We'll go back. I'll start where I wanted to start, and then I'm sure things will come. So, your story is amazing. So 15 to 30% chance to live. And when I'm telling people about the power of the mind, what I'm doing with Zen Athlete, like that, it's hard for me to convince people that if you visualize your tricks, you're going to be a lot better athlete. But the thing about extreme sports athletes is they have a necessity. So I'm working with like one of the best motocross riders on the planet. He's going to do the first front flip heel clicker and front flip some other variation. It's ridiculous. But if he messes it up, he is toast. You know what I mean? Like it could be his life, like, or their hospital trips are not nice, man. Like even more than snowboarding and much more than basketball. So, when I'm familiar with work like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is helping people heal themselves repeatedly of cancer, of different forms, of cystic myalgia, I think it's pronounced, basically things that are incurable for people having their whole life. It's what you said about the story that you tell yourself. And you were the example. So, you and I both, have the same thing, right, that you had. And you're, and I'd like to hear your thought process about your beliefs, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to survive and it's going to be great and all that kind of stuff. Or you have the other guy that's like, oh, I don't know. I'm definitely, there's no way out of this. 15%, I'm done. Both of you may die. Both of you may live, but you're not even giving yourself an opportunity. And it's the people who give themselves the opportunity and rewrite their story create miracles. And I've met people personally. You're another one. I've met people at Dr. Joe's and through email. And even at Burning Man, I had somebody tell me that like ayahuasca like cured his cancer. I was like, holy crap. Like I've never heard of that. Ayahuasca doesn't, really do that, but he had such a mental clarity. It's a consciousness medicine. So he had such a mental clarity. He let it all go. He basically accepted his death because guess what? You're going to die. I'm going to die. You're going to die. Everybody's going to die. It's part of the game, but you have this acceptance. One of the things that really helped me a long time ago was doing a shamanic death ritual, which essentially is just a guided meditation, and you really go in. So you kind of really relax your mind and go in deep, and you see it coming. And it's like, when you do it, it's freaking scary, and you keep doing it. Even right now, I am not afraid of death per se, but if I were going down in a plane or something were happening, I'd be like, fuck. I don't even know if I'd say that. Shouldn't. But it'd be I don't know how YouTube feels about that. But it would be terrifying. But I've accepted it. So I want to make my life magical. So I wonder if you can talk about like your story, how you did it, and like because it transformed where you. And I don't know where you were at mentally before, with your life, but you have so many people chasing the ego dream, and that's a little bit of maybe where you're going, or maybe not, or maybe you just redefine, but it's like, I need to do this and this and this, and then I'll be happy. And then it cuts you down to the core, and then you reevaluate that. And so it almost becomes like a gift.
That was pretty much all of it. That's the whole story right there. I mean, seriously, that's the whole story. Yeah. I mean, I was studying at, you literally just put it perfectly. So anything I'm going to say now is just like filling onto what you said, but
perfect.
I'll fill it in a little bit for people.
Yeah, perfect. Go for it.
But essentially, I was studying at the University of Michigan, which is the best musical theater school in the country, like one of the best. Musical theater is not like learning how to play instruments and, being in theater. It's like Broadway, like any Broadway show you go to in New York, there's likely going to be a Michigan person in it. So, we had like 900 kids audition, and they took like 10 boys and 10 girls. So very, very competitive, very, very, if you're in this program, you're special. Like this is what you're here to do on earth. And in many ways, it was what I was there to do. And, I was obsessed with musical theater and singing. And my favorite character to play, and I always say this on every interview, so if you've heard me before, you'll hear this again. But my favorite character to play was Gaston in Beauty and the Beast.
That's hilarious.
Because his last song, he just goes, me. And he just, sings out me. So, it was all about me, right? It was all about me. It was not about how my voice, how my gift could serve the world. It was not about how a song can, inspire change in someone. It was not about any of that. It was just about me, When am I going to be the leading man on Broadway? When am I going to be this, and that? And so when cancer came, not only did I get diagnosed with cancer, but I literally lost my voice completely. So I sounded like this for pretty much 2 years.
Wow.
So essentially I go from singing every day to sounding like Bruce Wayne, And that sounded worse than Bruce Wayne. I sounded like some horrible rapper who I don't even know. I can't really even think of him right now, but a horrible rapper with like rocks caught in his throat or something like that. That's what I sounded like. And so huge shift, obviously. And in that moment though, it didn't tear me down. It actually woke me up. Like you were saying, it actually made me realize, whoa, I had this amazing gift that I wasn't even aware of. Please, God, please, divine, whoever you are, please give it to me again. Let me sing again. That's all I thought about. That's all I focused on. That's all I envisioned was singing again, speaking again, being on stage again, doing that. And even when I'm talking about it now, it makes me a little like, whoo, you know what I mean? Like, but please, God, just let me sing again. And I never thought I was going to die. Ever. Not once during the whole process. But I didn't know who I was going to become. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically a 2-year battle with cancer, and things were going great. I had 6 rounds of chemo. It was supposed to be all done. And then basically they were like, ooh, actually it didn't work right. You have to have a stem cell transplant. And that's when the odds are like 15 to 30%. And that's when things just like got a little scarier, but still. And then I'm not saying I didn't have moments where I was scared. I mean, I was definitely scared for sure, but I never lost the faith and I never lost the hope. And one of those reasons was because of the community I had and really just learning what it meant to love and to be loved,
Wow.
which really is like, you know, the source of everything, right? Love, divine, God, whatever. It's all love at the end of the day. If you just want to boil it down, it's just love, you know?
Yep.
My sister, for instance, she put together this 1,000-card marathon where one day in the hospital, 1,000 cards just poured in from strangers, friends, all kinds of just encouraging me and just loving me. And I hung them up around the room. I had them, you know, floating on my desk, like everywhere. So wherever I looked in this stem cell transplant room, which I was stuck in for 2 months, wherever I looked, I was just reminded of love, of people who love me, of how I could heal, how I could get better, how I could da 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 da. And it worked. It worked. And for a long time, though, my voice still didn't come back. And it was interesting because, you know, I went back to New York and wanted to like do that thing and go that way. And it's almost like I wanted to be like, F you, cancer. You know what I mean? Like, I'll show you again, sort of in that ego mind shift and state and all that. Until I realized, like, oh man, I have such a different message to share. And I can use all those skill sets and all those strengths and, you know, being on stage since I've been, you know, in like third grade practically, I can use all of that in a different way. And that's what I'm being called to do. And that's what I'm saying, though. It's scary. I had no idea how to do it, but I just knew that I had to. And then my voice started coming back, which is fascinating. And eventually I did have surgery to make it like really come back in a bigger way. But like, you know, I wrote a play about my experience and I starred in the play. And while I was writing it, my voice wasn't really ready. And by the time it was done and by the time I was actually like in it, my voice was there. It was the weirdest thing. But it's not weird, of course, because we know that like these are how miracles work, you know, and this is how manifestation works. So yeah, that's a summary.
Beautiful, man. What a friggin' story. It's amazing. I think it's so helpful for people to hear that just first person, because we hear about these miracles and how they start is believing in yourself. And what a miracle is just something that, you know, kind of defies logic or science. But that's very limited. It's very limited. Yes, it's a helpful thing, but we don't know everything. You know, we have no idea how powerful we are. We are infinitely powerful. And, you know, this kind of just, you allow it to guide you in a positive way, and you can allow the catalyst to guide you in a negative way also.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
And I also want to say that, like, I'm not here saying that, you know, if you think positive and if you envision your life and whatever, you can heal yourself of anything, because that's not the truth. Because I've seen it not happen. Right? I've seen it. Like, amazing, wonderful people still die of this thing. So like you're saying, I don't know all the answers, right? I don't know why I'm still here, but I know that I've got to do something because I am, you know? And that's the point. That's the choice we all have. Like, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've experienced, what you've survived, you have the choice to create a life of freedom and to help others become more free in themselves as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that kind of leads me to the point of necessity. So when you know, I try to get people to do that. We've done like the Dr. Joe meditations. I've done my own version of meditation for a long time. I think I was like 21 and I'd been reading so much about manifestation, the law of attraction, like everything I get my hands on. You know, I'll read anything, man. As you know, I'm pretty intuitive, like psychic. So I'm looking at like, how to improve your psychic powers, how to astral project. I'm doing everything to the point where I'm doing like magic out in Calgary. Like, I'm like, all right, take these 3 rocks. And like, I'm like, I'm going to test this. Who knows, man? I don't know. Maybe some cool spirit's going to come out. But what I did realize at that point in reading all this stuff, and it was this congruent message that was, if I can clear my mind and I can imprint the thing that I want into that empty space with feeling for an hour a day, whether it's my ideal job, and I don't create the job, I create what the job looks like. So the money and the pay and the people, not like it's, you got to leave as much to the universe as you can. If I did that an hour a day, I knew that it would happen. And so I started writing out my affirmations and visualizing them every night as a guided meditation. And, I went to Whistler. That was I wanted to snowboard every day. And then I was in Whistler. I was like, okay, well, I'm snowboarding every day. I don't want to really work. I just want to coach good lessons. So then I started making passive income and having to work very, very little. And then coaching freestyle. Then I wanted to travel. And I did that. And all of my journals have everything that I had. But this stuff works, but it's hard to convince people where they are that it's a necessity. It's like a fundamental of creation. And if you can add this in to your daily practices, you can have anything, but the point is that you want to work towards it and you're giving yourself a chance. So the point of the necessity is when you almost died and you came back, you're like, okay, cool, I've come back here. I'm not dead yet. Perfect. All right. Still kicking.
Perfect.
All right, still going. Somebody grab me a sandwich. What the hell am I going to do that matters? What is my life? What the hell do I want to do? And now you've gone from this crazy necessity of almost dying to be like, well, shit, I have a second chance. I'm not going to say that I just have to work this regular job. What is like my dream? And I have a lot of friends I call like city monks, where they have their job and they have a family and they're grateful and all that kind of stuff. That's wonderful. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That could be your way. Beautiful. Awesome. My only suggestion to the city monks is always think not bigger as in you need it, bigger as in you can have anything. So if you're stoked and you're working your 9-to-5 job and you're grateful for your kids and all that kind of fun stuff, and you're like, you know what, it would be nice to not work as much. That's a thought that can come a reality. And when you have this necessity, that real massive catalyst, you start thinking in that way more, right? So you want to spend every day how you want. And once you get to that place where you kind of find your mission and direction, let's say it's north, not everything's figured out, far freaking from it, but you're really happy with the footsteps you're moving forward towards. And you really know, you're honoring yourself and saying, cool, like this is the way I want to go.
Yeah, and I think just this word necessity is resonating so much with me because it was a necessity for me to heal. Right? So I didn't know everything. I didn't know how to do that. But in my mind, it was already done. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I had to. And there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to. I didn't necessarily know how. Now, that also means, though, that things are going to come to you, right? You're going to start getting things just thrown at you from the universe or whatever, like a book that talks about diet and like gluten and like processed food and all this stuff. And it's like, this is necessary and a necessity. So you should probably do this. So then you just have to do it. You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
Whereas, like, again, it's sort of like the pizza comes. If you don't start eating it, then like, don't ask for pizza.
Yeah, and I think in that analogy too. Okay, keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say that's the problem so many times, and myself too. Now that I have unlimited options, it gets harder, right? Back then, I literally had one option: survive cancer. That's it. That's all I cared about. That's all I was focused on. That's it. Now it's like, oh, I could go do acting. I could be a light leader. I could be a, radio host. I could be a model. I could be, look at this face, And so like, it's a necessity for you to like choose. And I'm saying that to myself too, because I still struggle with that. And I struggled with that very much after, you know what I mean? And sometimes you have to figure out, you have to go through what you don't want to realize what you do want too. So I'm not saying that like you have to know right away, but I'm saying like it's necessary and a necessity for you to decide what it is you're going to do and just do it, and it will figure itself out.
Yeah, man, that's wonderful. Well, the one thing, Lozier, Michael Lozier, I don't know, you get mad if I call Lozier on here. Michael Lozier, the author of Law of Attraction, he's all about contrast, because if you know what you don't want, then you can find out what you do want. So if you don't want a job where you work 60 hours, so what do you want? You want a job with 40 hours or less. If you don't want to get paid crap, so now you want to get paid well. So you make this big list of the things that you want. And I think that when you're moving in the direction, like, choosing, you're going north, and everything that you've done, you're still moving in a direction. Let's say northeast, south, and west. You're moving north. And maybe your north is like, sometimes northeast, sometimes northwest. But that choice, you're still going north, right? So you're going in that direction. And with your pizza analogy, the way that I understand it is, let's say if you wanted to make a pizza, and then the first thing that you get is the dough, to make the crust. You look at it, which is the book, and you don't take the dough and look at it and then make the crust. Then you get the sauce, and you don't have the whole pizza yet, but now you got the sauce. Then you get cheese, and you're like, okay, then you got to grade the cheese. You know what I mean? You got to go through each individual process. And the beauty of that, as we're doing this analogy, I'm really liking it.
I like it too. There's so many ways to take this.
Yeah, it's just the pizza analogy, man. So you're building it, but you're learning every step of the way, and that's what you want. Now so it's not like, you're ordering a pizza, which is like your job or your relationship or whatever. And if just pizza appears, you don't want that, because you never learned how to make the damn thing. That's what you wanted. You wanted to get your hands, full of dough and mess it up, and then you grab it and you try again. And you're like, okay, cool. Third time's a charm. I made the crust right. Then you're trying to make the sauce and you stuff it up a few times. But at the end of the day, you know how to make a wicked pizza. And you're like, man, that was awesome, But if you just get it instantly, there's no good.
Yeah, and also the thing is, it's like, all the steps it takes to make a pizza. And so sometimes what we can get caught up in is like skipping steps. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if you just dump the sauce without like making the crust first. You know what I mean? So sometimes we like want to like skip steps and like go like and try to do it all at once. It's like try to make it all like at the same time, and not realizing that like this is not like get rich quick. This is not like, it's just not how it happens. You got to build the crust, then you got to put the sauce on, then you got to put the cheese on, then you got to put it in the oven, and then you freaking eat it.
Yeah, I struggle with the exact same thing. Even as far as I can remember, I remember just playing sports in the summer. My mom's like, you got to pick one. Like, you can't skateboard and play soccer and baseball. Oh, you got to choose one. Like, it's too much, man. You got to. And I never wanted to do that.
Yeah, and it depends on, again, your outcome, right? Because in some ways that has served you, because you're able to coach many different people in different verticals, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? But I think like now more than ever, we are just inundated with like options and, strategies and how to do this and how to do that. And it's like, just pick one first and just run an experiment. If you don't like it, stop doing it. If you do like it, keep doing it,
Mm-hmm.
It's like I got out of acting and musical theater because like I didn't like it. I didn't like not being able to like really have a lot of control over my life, which of course we're not in control anyways, but just in terms of like, if I'm working really hard, I want to see some reward, not have someone say when I can do something, like things like that. So it's like, okay, stop doing it. What do you want? Something else. Go figure it out.
Totally. And I think, I'll get your opinion on this, but I'm pretty sure you'll agree. The biggest miss, and when I was doing Law of Attraction and I'm looking at all these different ways to manifest stuff, there's always a big gap. And, even when I was training people in the Law of Attraction, I added a module at the beginning. And it's like figuring out like what you actually want, And
Yeah.
our culture forces bullshit that people think that they want, and then they sacrifice their life for shit that they didn't even want in the first place. You know, if you have a Ferrari and no friends, you're not going to be you might be stoked for a day, you know, but that's not the actual thing that you want, you know. So I think it's the problem that people have is they don't know what the hell they want. And I'm just wondering if, you know, you have a bunch of amazing stuff on your website. One of them is the 7-day breakthrough training, and I believe that's what it goes through. What do you suggest for people? Because I think that another reason why they don't move forward is because it's not the thing that tugs at their heart. They know, they're like,
Yes.
you know, and if you're young, if you're like 18, and this is why I'm a big hater on post-secondary education, which can be useful, you know, not a blanket of all, but let me just say most. Because you're coming out at 18. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do at 18. I barely knew what I wanted to do at 25. So why am I supposed to spend a shit ton of money, you know, again, to learn this one tiny, you know, facet, even as like if it's a vague thing like business, I still don't know. You know, you got to give yourself time to think and grow as a human, and not think of a bank account and security and money, and think about passion and love and community. Because if you can think in that term, the money will happen, but you're gonna be more grateful. Like you'd be more grateful for a balanced life, moderate, than tons and tons of money. You know, I see this in, you know, certain industries like investment banking and cars. A lot of people make so much money, lawyers making so much money, you know, and every now and then they'll be like, oh yeah, you live your life a certain way. I'm like, yeah. And I can just see that they are miserable, you know, and I'm like acting on pure faith. It's not the easiest thing. Trust me. Like I'm making leaps of faith all the damn time. But if I look at it, I'm like, man, I have been having a bloody great time. Maybe it'll end, maybe not, but like I can then readjust. There's nothing wrong with me readjusting, and I'm not going to sell my life to acquire a thing until I really want that thing more than I want to experience other parts of life.
Totally. And I mean, there's so much to say about that, but, and you brought up the 7-day breakthrough, and this is a perfect example. It's like, and actually, well, I'll tell them a little bit after, because I put together a gift for your listeners too, where they can actually get a day of the 7-day breakthrough for free.
Oh,
And it's
nice.
perfect that we're talking about vision and creating it, because that's what they can get for free. So essentially, though, it's like, yeah, if you don't have the vision, and you're really good at this, I mean, you do this very much through meditation, you know, and there's a lot of meditative strategies in the 7-day breakthrough too. But there are many ways to approach it, right? Some people are more analytical, right? So they need to like write out their vision and like see it on paper. Some people are more kinesthetic, where they need to like feel their vision. Like I'm very much a feeler kind of thing. Like if something, if I'm meant to do something, I will literally feel like vibrations all the way up and through my body. It's like someone like electrocuted me.
Yeah, me too. That's awesome.
Weird, but it's like, whoa, you know, it's just what happens. But some people aren't like that, and that's okay. Everybody has a different strategy. Everybody has their own version of what a breakthrough means to them. So in day 3, in this vision day, you know, we talk and we get really clear about that before we do anything else. You know, the first 2 days are all about like understanding your probably sabotaging beliefs. I actually take them through a meditation process where they go through an art gallery and they find out what their real problem is, and then they find out what the solution is. And then from there, on day 3, we create that vision statement. And there's a lot of ways to mess up a vision statement. You know what I mean? And, you know, Helen Keller said it best. She said, what did she say? She said, oh yeah, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. So it's what we're talking about, right? It's like so many of us go out there and we start creating this thing or whatever, but we have no vision for it. It's like the Ferrari is not about the Ferrari. The Ferrari is about how it makes you feel when you're in that Ferrari. So you're actually looking for significance or respect or whatever it is. So you can find that in many different ways. It doesn't mean it has to be a Ferrari. So So yeah, actually, if your listeners want access to that, they can just text me the word "my breakthrough," one word, "my breakthrough" to 33444, and they'll get that download for free, day 3 of the download of the 7-day breakthrough. And yeah, I mean, that's what I'm so passionate about, is really helping people connect to the big picture, because that's what's going to pull them.
Totally,
That's
man.
gonna, like, it's like Scorpion, you know, like, get over here. It's like pulling them in, you know what I mean? Instead of like Sub-Zero, where you're just like freezing everything and trying to freeze everything, you know?
Yeah, totally, man. Well, first of all, thanks for that. Definitely, anyone listening, you want to get that, because and then again with you talking, there's a lot of things that I want to add because so much goodness in there.
Yeah.
It's like a foundation of the most epic skyscraper ever of your creation. And let's say each human builds some sort of structure, that structure's your life. So, you got to set the foundation. And that's where, if you're choosing north or south or whatever, the direction. And once it's true north or true south or true east or true west, it's basically straight in that direction. Although it might feel like, little kind of side steps, you're going in that direction. And it's wonderful. And the biggest problem that I had when I'm helping people with this vision, because again, like, law of attraction, sure, is all great. Mindset's great. I've met a lot of people with a whole bunch of success and not a lot of happiness. Money is not a factor. I can assure you, it is not. Like, I've met some very wealthy people and achieved tons and tons of success, and it all serves them in their purpose, but their level of happiness is not because of that. It's not
Well,
that
there's
only
that
thing.
statistic that once you're making at least, 75,000 or something like that, statistically it shows that your level of happiness doesn't increase with, income brackets above that at all.
Totally. And I don't know if you've heard this one, that people who win the lottery, they go back to the same level of happiness a year later. I don't know if you've heard that one. So
no, that's interesting. Well, I've heard that most of them always like lose all their money because they aren't actually in the mindset of abundance. They're mostly in the mindset of scarcity, so they don't actually know how to keep it.
Totally. And same with a lot of professional athletes. And I think that it's because it's a frequency, and that's how I see the world, is in frequency.
Right.
So if you're at 88, if you're at 60, in your mindset, and you're getting all this money, you're up here, but you don't know how to keep it. So you go back to 60 because you weren't able to readjust your dial. So you've really got to make those adjustments and, find the new ingredients. It's a new pizza now, now you're eating gluten-free crust or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like, you got to upgrade to level up and stay at that frequency. It's your opportunity.
You don't even eat pizza. You just eat kale salads.
Yeah, totally. Raw vegan, doing yoga every day. Just but the one thing that I wanted to add that I think is so important is the damn mother effing mind traps, friggin' mind traps of trying to create a vision statement, and the mother effing ego comes in with some bullshit about security and like, this is the way. So, and then they sabotage their own vision through practicality, so I'm sure that, with that course, and I'm going to do it too. I only saw it today. I didn't realize that you had that, but I'm really excited about it, because I think that information, of all the information that's out there right now, which is way too much, that's the most important information, is continually like don't read 100 books on manifestation and success and all that nonsense and marketing and making money. F those books, F those authors. I'm sure they're great people, but screw them. Figure out what the hell you want, man, because then all that other stuff will figure itself out,
Yeah.
Read 1,000 books on vision, and what you have, and keep getting clear. And then you get to a point where you wake up and you don't give a shit that you have it yet, because you're going in that direction. You have much more of a sense of peace about it.
Yeah. And it's funny because you can see people's underlying subconscious beliefs based on the first attempt that they write it. So what does that mean? That means that, like, I don't really give them instructions about how to write it. First off, I just tell them to write it. And then after it, I'm like, okay, now look for these words, or look for this kind of phraseology, or look for this blah, blah, blah. And it shows you, it's like really revealing, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm like completely delusional. Or number two, I'm like completely like self-sabotaging. Or number three, like, I'm not going to tell you all the things because it will ruin it if you want to go through it on your own. Because if you know, then of course you'll write with that expectation. But it's kind of cool. And I learned this through, other people. And it really opened up my mind to a lot of the way I was thinking. You know what I mean? And one of those things was like, I was like really grandiose with everything. Like, oh, I gotta,
Got a
my
flair for
book will be a
drama,
New
do
York
you?
Times best-selling author, and it will make $1 million on every launch. And that's great, but like in some ways, it's a bit self-sabotaging in this early phase, right? Because it brings in this like expectation, like, okay, well, what if I don't get that?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's cool. I love doing that process, and then you come up with your own thing, and then you read it every morning, type of thing. All the things we know and learn about. So I don't know. It's fun. I think I like it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I'm excited to do it. And I think that when you're on this path and go in this direction, the most important thing is clarity. So I'm pretty bloody clear, always in my journal. That's pretty much consistently what I'm trying to do every day, because every day is different and it always modifies. I'll look and just these little tiny modifications. And the biggest value for me is more clarity. So anything out there that gives me more clarity, although, I would say I'm, probably 99% more clear than, most people out there, I'm going to look for a thing that can just, guide me a little bit, because kind of like that, the train track analogy, two going in the same direction. If you go off by like 0.01, in a kilometer, it's going to be something, but then in 10 kilometers and 20 kilometers, it really shifts. So if you can keep needling that clarity down, and you're walking in a straighter line, and to me, that's to source or God or home or nature or you and your mother effing signal. Don't worry. There's so much noise, that's why meditation. And just a quick note on meditation, because I haven't done this yet. Meditation is about just being able to clear your mind. Okay. You can do it. Anybody can do it. It's not about how. It's not like, going and like, doing friggin' algebra. Learn how to clear your mind. Go get a guided meditation. I think you have some on your website. Start with guided ones, but you have to know how to clear your mind. So the reason being is because then that separates you from your thoughts. Because like, this is you and a thought comes up, and then you think you're the thought, and then you feel an emotion. So you're like trapped by your own mind. So all meditation is like, which one's my brand? Thought, watch it. Thought, it happens. I have thoughts when I meditate, it just happens. But it's the process of clearing your mind, and it really helps you get centered, and it aligns your energy and all kinds of good stuff. So get some guided ones or do what you got to do. But I think it's a fundamental consciousness difference, like a whole level up for somebody who can clear their mind and somebody who can't. I see them as two different levels of consciousness.
Yeah, it saved my life. For sure.
Is that
so important.
Is that one of the first things that you did when you were diagnosed?
It's interesting. I actually did that after I went through everything, because I started getting like randomly sick again with other stuff that like wasn't exactly cancer, obviously, but was like just weird. And I was like, I got to figure this out. It's all stress. It's all stress related. It's literally that's where this is all coming from. My ego trying to take over, creating stress and trying to make me become something that I'm just not. So, and I lived in New York City. So that was the thing too. It's like, no matter how peaceful or mindful you are, that city will eat you up. It does not matter. Like, so I had to learn like how to like clear my mind when there was still like, oh, you motherfucker, all the streets and all this. Like, there's never a silent moment, which is eventually why I moved out here to San Diego just like 2 months ago. But yeah, it's funny, like, so yeah, meditation is the bomb. We could do a whole nother episode on that.
Oh yeah, man, totally. And I think that, there's a couple things in there, but the last thing that I remember to share about what you're saying is how important your environment is.
Yeah.
For me, I love the mountains, man. I'm in mountains and I'm in calm and I'm in peace. And I grew up in Cambridge, Ontario, which is near Toronto. And, I traveling the world and seeing the world, I'm just like, man, I can never live like Cambridge. Like, oh my God, like, look at all these amazing other places like Whistler, Vancouver. You got like, I've been in Nepal and all Thailand and Cambodia, China, all these amazing places. But now I'm called back to Toronto. And I was like, I hate Toronto, man. It's too busy. It's concrete jungle. F that. You know what I mean? It's my nightmare. Hate that. But the community there is so damn strong. I don't want to be anywhere else now. And I'm going to go back to Toronto because I'm being called there because of the people. So you've kind of got either like your natural environment and then you've got the people. And ideally you can have both. I know I'm not going to stay permanently in Toronto, but the people that I'm going to be surrounded with are just so bloody awesome. I'm really excited to go. So, step one is like, if you start going into environments where you're called to go, you're going to find like-minded people. So when I was in Whistler, I was finding snowboarders, outdoor people, Squamish. You go to the mountains and the Alps. I was there as well. You're gonna find a certain type of people and a certain type of lifestyle. And people live in New York. Yeah, some people can handle it. They love it. They love the city. They love they love it. They thrive in there. And if you thrive, go for it. But so many people that they're not made have gone for money. And I've heard some crazy stuff in my time, man, with like people like we're talking about their life or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like what do you want to do? And they're usually an older generation. They're like, yeah, I want to do this, but I don't know. I just don't have the money. Like, what am I gonna do for money? Later, I find out they're multi-mother effing millionaires. I'm just like, what are you talking about, man? Like, oh my God. I was like, well, take some of that. Just try somewhere like way less expensive. Like some people are paying, one of my friends paying like 50 grand a month on school for each kid. So he had to have this job that he was like stressed out about, he's doing all the time and it's never enough. I was like, holy, like, do you see the cycle? Like, it's not going to end here. But if you like New York and you thrive in it and you enjoy that, then perfect. But if you're realizing it's eating you up, pull shoot, man. You can pull shoot. But I think you put in these roots and it gets a lot harder. So it's a lot easier said than done. But it's totally possible.
Definitely true. It's definitely true. And you have to realize that, like, what's your end game, And so for me, I just knew I wasn't gonna be there long term in game, and I'll probably end up being bi-coastal and stuff like that. But like, either way, you're gonna have to uproot. Yeah. So it's like now or never, or like now or later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's important. Environment is important, man. Environment is important. And I think the other big thing for me is like, if you want to start, and it's not and I think you touched on this earlier. It's really important to say you don't just figure it out. It's a process of starting to listen to yourself, actually listening to that inner voice. And man, people are going to tell you everything. I got one friend of mine, Ollie, who's an amazing human being, just spectacular human being. And we meet at a conference, and he's talking about, he does this like fashion I'll give him a plug. It's like Marvan fashion. And the guy is like a wizard. And with what he's getting fashion from around the world and, selling it in North America, giving money back to the people who, obviously deserve it in poor countries, and promoting their cool cultural styles and bringing it, to North America, making it awesome. So he's strapped for cash and doesn't know what he's going to do. We start doing the meditations. I start working with them. And like, he has necessity because he is stressed. He needs some money. He doesn't know what to do. He's doing the meditations every day, man. He's doing 2 a day. After a week, he's like, bro, you changed my life. I was like, dude, I didn't do anything. Gave you some meditations. You did them, good for you. So then he gets his catalyst. So he starts making a little bit of money through his art, like more through his art, more through his fashion. He's a really smart guy. I believe he's an engineer, doctor, something like that, like smart son of a gun. And then just as he's getting all this success, within that, just getting above water, he gets a job offer for $90K or something to go to engineering or doctor, I forget which one. And he calls me, he's like, man, what should I do? I was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life, man. Have a, meditation, and then you tell me. And then he just texts me back. He's like, I don't even know what he's thinking. Of course, I'm going to go do this Marvan Magic Tour. So, because we had done a vision statement of like what's most important, because before it was like, getting in and having like so-and-so magazine saying my fashion's cool, and then having a store in a cool like New York store that's Belair fashion, super cool, everybody wants to wear it, it's on the red carpet. Well, freaking nonsense, which is fine. If you like fashion, you can have, I'm not saying anything wrong with fashion, but really the core of what he wanted was to inspire the world through art. He wanted to be around amazing community. He wanted to be supported through his passions. He wanted to wake up enthusiastic, knowing that he was living his life's mission. And we got really clear. So, there's more things in there like that, right? So he does this magic tour. I just talked to him a few days ago. He's like living it. He's been living it for like 3 weeks, and people in his life, unfortunately, like actively, like, kind of like discouraging it because they don't understand, which would be, super. And that's what a lot of people do when they don't understand, because it's not safe. It isn't safe, but nothing is safe. Getting your 9-to-5 job is not any safer.
Exactly.
But he's in the vibe, man. He's just telling me, like, he's met like some of the amazing connections, some of the best DJs in the world. He's friends with all these super influential people. So now he's found the fastest track to what lights him up most. And the point is, he's doing the thing that he wants. And then by going in full tilt and having faith, all of this stuff is happening, and he's continuing to do the work. I call like the meditation, the squats. And soon I'm going to have like my own meditation, but Dr. Joe's got a really sweet one. And I'm sure you've got, and he's not even teaching new material. It's all out there in different ways. But for me, it's just sitting in the void, projecting the thing that you want on a daily basis. That's what everybody ever has said, from the greatest athletes to the greatest business minds to the greatest minds like Tesla. You got to project into the void the thing you want. And so he's done this, and the guy is like so on. It's so beautiful to witness. And you can see going from one thing is like fear and security into love and faith and following that heart piece. And it's possible for anyone. So it's starting to reconnect and listen. And the step one is exactly your transformation course, is what is it that your heart's asking to you? And the heart is like your soul. The mind is serving you because you want to be practical and make smart choices. But the thing is, it impedes the other stuff. It can overwork when really the mind needs to take commands from the heart. So like, I'm sure how many people for Tesla would have been like, dude, you're crazy. You know what I mean? Oh my God, you just made all this money. Now you're doing this and you're asking me for rent. Like, I thought yesterday you're a multi-millionaire. I'm going to be like the guy, like, holy crap, Tesla, like, I'm going to give you some money for rent right now. You hook me up later. And like, and even if he fails, I don't care, because the thing is, you want to support people who are living their mission or even trying to get more alignment. Support people's alignment. Support people's freaking joy. Don't be that a-hole that rains on their mother effing parade all the time, like, support them. What can you do to help them? Whether it's a high five and a cheerlead, or maybe you could do like a little graphic for them if you're a graphic design, or maybe, I offer marketing to everyone, and people like don't know how to take it because I think I want something. I'm like, dude, it'll take me like an hour, 2 hours. Like, I'm a marketing consultant. I've seen a lot of things. Like, I don't want to do it for you, but I'm like the guy, going to the gym. I can give you the workout plan. You go do it, but it's not going to take me that long to give you the workout plan. And then I serve you into your mission, and that makes me feel good. And I don't need anything for it. That's me being me. That's me being of service to another good human. That's like, and they're always wanting to do it for something they're passionate about, man. So I'm like, yeah, man, like, this is what I could do to help. So I think that's super important.
Love it. You just summed it all up right there, brother.
Yeah, I could rant with the best of them, it seems. Well, one of the things that I wanted to ask, and because we've just been going down, and I knew this was going to be excellent. I'm like the worst interviewer ever. Like, I look at the person. I haven't even looked at like how to do a proper interview. I go and I know the person, and I write down like 2 or 3 questions, and then have a conversation. But I have such amazing people like you. It's so easy, and that was the whole point of me starting this, is having conversations with amazing people, because we're saying the same thing. And the more people see people like you and I, the more my network of people see that there's more crazy people like me, then they're like, oh, okay, like I relate to, your story, Alex's story more than Matt's, or, I relate to Matt's story more, whoever, but we're saying the same thing. You're saying, believe in yourself, love yourself, trust yourself, be kind to others. It's not easy. We haven't figured out crap. We're confused as anything. But it is a little bit different, and we can see in people's eyes where they are. For me, anyway, I can see where you, and a lot of people will tell you when they tell you that their life is great and it's not, then it's like, it's not for me, bro. It's for you. I'm not faking it. And if you're faking it, I have compassion for you. But how can we get you to feel better? And it's not about doing Matt Belair's coaching or Alex's coaching. We don't care about that. These are just things for us to help you because we actually want to help you. And go do Tony Robbins coaching, go do Michael Ozier coaching, doesn't matter. Start learning how to make your pizza crust. Whoever's start somewhere. But the end of this rant, I want to ask, you've interviewed some heavy hitters, Deepak, Marianne Williamson seems just like a amazing person who they all seem amazing, the whole list. Would you see there's so many questions. Do you see a congruency of information, like one of them that has a common thread? Do you have a favorite person you've interviewed, or a piece of advice from one of them that is stuck? Any of those questions will do, but I think the common thread, a commonality between any of them or you can choose which one of those ramblings you want to tackle.
Yeah. I think this is what I've learned the most. Okay. And it's interesting because that question sort of reveals maybe what I used to think too. And I'm not saying you think this, but I think a lot of people do. Is that okay. And I realized this because on the same day I interviewed Deepak Chopra and Carolyn Mace, who are saying the same thing, right, in essence, but are very different in the way they say it and how they think about it. And it was interesting because I'm literally hearing Carolyn May say things who, basically brought the work of the chakras to a whole big level, energy anatomy, that's her stuff. And then Deepak Chopra, obviously, we all likely know who he is. But what I found very interesting is that they have a connection to source or God or divine or love or whatever you want to call it, right? They have a really deep connection. And that's their connection, okay? And what happens is they're trying to conceptualize that connection. They're trying to put it in a framework that they've experienced and that they understand, right? So often we're looking to the Deepaks and the Mariannes and the Carolyns for the answer, but we forget where they're looking. You see what I'm saying?
100%, man.
We forget that they're pointing to the star or whatever it is in this metaphor. They're pointing to the star, talking about the star, but we're looking at them and not at the star that they're pointing to. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. When I get this question, I think the biggest thing I've learned from all of these people is that everybody has their own unique connection to source, to the divine, to love, to whatever you want to call it. Everyone has different metaphors, different analogies, different terms. The point is find what that is for you. Find your voice of freedom, find out what lights you up, find out what makes sense to you. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So that's what I learned. That's what I learned the most. And because I was looking for all the answers in them, see what I'm saying? Yeah. I was looking for all the answers. Deepak, just tell me the answer. What do I need to know about life? Carolyn Mace, tell me the answer. What do I need? Marianne Williamson, Gabby Bernstein, Madison Gibb, tell me the answer. And it's no one has the answer. It's their own version of how they experience it. So the answer is you. You are the answer.
That's awesome.
And that's a
man.
lifelong journey that some people have really gone down very intentionally and deeply, like those people. And that's what we're recognizing in them. Does that make sense?
100%, dude. I couldn't agree more. I queued this up. Hold on, let's see if it works. Leslie uses those all the time. I was like, oh man,
my gosh, that's a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. You can
How
also
do you do that?
It's in sounds. Hold on. You can do other stupid stuff too. Hold on. There we go. See?
Oh my God. How do you do that? Is that like Google Effects?
It's an effects one, so you can give yourself like a pirate hat, or like there's other ones too, right? So
Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa. Cool.
yeah, so ideally
I
you don't want to be.
graduated Matt's podcast today.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. I hope
All
I
right, how
can
do I
figure.
turn it off? Oh
I don't
God.
know. Yeah. Oh wait,
Oh, you
remove
have
all
backgrounds?
remove all effects.
What?
Oh, the backgrounds. Yeah, the backgrounds they don't come in as well as you'd like, though. Hey, let me just show
Remove
that.
all effects. Oh, dude, you can have back. Oh yeah, that does look kind of weird, huh?
Yeah. So like I'm all
What
pixelated
about
now.
this one? Wow, we're really on a rant now.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No. It was so good. I was in the middle of trying
Wait,
to agree with
how
you.
do you cue up that applause though? I gotta figure that out.
Okay, so you keep scrolling in the effects.
Oh, it's in effects.
Yeah, and effects and the sounds.
Because I saw a little button come up that said like Matt has like cued something, and I was like, what is that?
Oh, does it give you a warning? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it said like something about that. Oh, sounds?
Sounds, yeah,
Ooh.
sounds. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so good. Wait, what's
I
this one do?
know. You can elevate this. You can really elevate the podcast this way.
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah, you don't
Oh,
even
there's
need
a
the talk
cricket.
show
Wait, hold on.
anymore.
Let's get the cricket. Hold on.
Okay.
Awkward.
Yeah. No, that's not a very upbeat one. But
That's amazing.
I wanted
Thank
to,
you for that.
yeah, I did want to say though at the end, the reason why you got the applause is because it was summed up so perfectly, and every sage and saint and everybody that's good is saying, look within, the kingdom of heaven is within. And a lot of like Zen sayings will talk about that. They're saying you're looking at me and not the star. Like that's the Zen thing. You're looking in the wrong spot. So you are the answer, and that's why we respect these people that seem to have this wisdom and this connection, because it is it's unseen, it's unknown, it's for them, and that connection is for you, and you can't have anyone else's. You can't. So you got to make your own bridge to the divine, to God, to the heart. And I see it's the bridge to yourself. It's the bridge to your heart, and that's where you start asking and really refining. And I heard this once, and I truly believe it is like, if you want to know God and you want to wake up and you want enlightenment and you want all that kind of stuff, ask sincerely. And that's all you need to do. Not fake it. You're like, okay, like I want to know, I want to wake up, in the sense that like I want to be of service, I want to know what's going on. And a lot of times that's where you see pain really become the catalyst to pop people out, because they're in pain for so long, and they're used to it, and then they're like, oh my God, like I don't even actually, it serves them, like I don't actually need this. I heard that's what happened to Eckhart Tolle. The guy who wrote The Power of Now, for people who don't know, that he was just to the point where he's going to kill himself. And
Right.
he said, I can't live with myself anymore, and then realized the duality of I and myself, and just popped. And then he sat in the park bench for 2 years in pure bliss, not doing anything. And then he wrote The Power of Now after, which is a great book, but it's not saying anything new. But I remember hearing on a podcast, someone was kind of like, not knocking it, but he was like, I think it was like Tim Ferriss or Lewis Howes or something. But he's just like, people are regurgitating information. We need them to. That's what storytellers were. That's what they did in native tribes, right? We need everybody to continue down the line sharing this valuable information, because then it will be lost. That's why cultures go down they teach the next generation. So we need him. We need the Deepaks. We need the new Oprah. So I'm looking like, where are the new Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna and, the Yoganandas? Like, and I think I'm lined up with a podcast with a guy that just went to India, and apparently he met like a full-on yogi, and I know they exist, man, like full-on like levitator, like they're there, and they're just, I know that I've met a couple people, one in particular that was so next level. I think I told you about him. But I know that there's more of them, and they don't need it. They're just like fully lit up. And I think that he's from what I can hear, is like met a couple in India. And I'm so curious to see, because when I went to China and was with the Shaolin monks, they were aware, and they could do unbelievable things. Like he could break granite with 2 fingers, like one like this thick over his head. It's on my Instagram. You can see it. Unbelievable, through years of meditation and conditioning. But like, how do you condition the top of your head? You can't even really do that. So it's through like, I would imagine like creating a vortex of energy and doing it. So people can do unbelievable things. Look at Wim Hof, you know, and when Wim Hof was doing it, everybody's like, oh my God, this is impossible. And he's doing it repeatedly. And I don't know why it took him so long to share it, but he's like, it's a yogic breath pattern, not specifically a yogic breath pattern because he invented it himself through the cold, which makes it super awesome by just, you know, having the elements forge an insanely amazing human being. But it's a breath pattern that all of us can do. So if a normal man can break granite, if Wim Hof can do all these amazing things, if Deepak can have a connection to God, if a yogi can levitate or, you know, find a direct connection, so can you. And the key is to find your pathway home, whatever feels right. And if it's through art or engineering or some sort of analytics, you just start following your own path. And that's the thing. And, you know, don't worry about anyone else's footsteps, but you can use them as kind of guideposts for like, maybe you want to check out that place, you know, like a learning center. You're like, oh, that's a cool learning center. I'm going to go check out some yoga. Oh, that's really neat too. I'm actually inspired. You know, you could wake up from being a chef, or like, I'm trying to think of something like rollerblading. I don't know, you know, but you follow your passion, and that's what's going to lead you to the people and the ingredients that you need to wake up in your way.
Yes. That's a great way to think about it. A learning center. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Because that's what it is. And it's true. It's like we do need people to keep sharing because people have different ears, right? They're going to hear people differently. People hear me differently than they hear you. And so for some reason, my voice is going to resonate with people that maybe your voice doesn't. For some reason. And, you know, Mastin Kipp said this once. He said, what would you do if your mentors didn't answer their call?
Mm.
You know, like who would you be? Like if all these people hadn't have come before you to like answer theirs. So yeah, we're all saying the same stuff, sort of, but we're all saying it in our unique way. I mean, really, is anything new? I mean, besides like technology and things like that, but really that's just an expression of something that's existed before as well, you know?
Totally, man. Thousand. It's ancient wisdom, and when you get there, there are only, you know, a few truths, you know, a few fundamental truths, and in Zen they'll say is deepening the level of understanding of those truths, and that's where you get the mastery. You know, like we're all one, or like to follow your heart, or, you know, whatever the case may be. You, as you continue to go in that direction, you'll have an experience that deepens it, and a new experience that deepens it again, and that's when you become the master, right? It's through you meandering, you know, it's like this woods, you know, a dense woods, and you walk in, you don't know where you're going, but you're going to get guideposts along the way. And that's kind of what life is this dense woods, but you can skip and you can sing through the woods. You can be upset about the bugs, you know, you can find problems. If you're like in a negative type, like, oh, life is the worst, you're going to like run into an angry grizzly bear that's going to like, you know, wants to kill you, but probably just annoy you and like scratch your leg and make life crappy. And then you're going to get poison ivy, where somebody's going to be dancing and he's going to skip over the snake and he's going to find the right path. And it's going to be easy through, you know, thought process and, you know, and faith and connection and love and listening to himself. And I think that's it. Again, you have to listen to yourself.
Yeah, because there's a difference from knowing, living it, and being it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're each three different distinct phases. And so you have to go through all of them, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a process. It's definitely a process. And yeah. So step one, the knowing. And then when you start living, and then at no point is it ever figured out, but that's really when you're making strides, and you don't go back. You don't really revert. Once you get to 1, 2, 3, you're not really, you know, you're not really trying to go back. You're moving forward and you're graduating.
Totally.
That's awesome, brother. Well, man, I know you got to get going. This has been.
Yeah, I'm about to interview Pat Flynn. You ever heard of that guy?
No, tell me about him.
Passive income guy. He's like really popular in the podcast world. He's a really interesting guy.
Is this on the Soul Feed?
Yeah, soulfeed. So yeah, guys, if you want to check out soulfeed, it's one word, soulfeed. Also, you can visit my site, alexkip.com, for that free day 3 from the 7-day breakthrough. Also some meditations on there, or you can text me the word my breakthrough, one word, to 33444.
That's awesome, brother. You got anything else you want to plug?
Not really. I mean, I've got a book coming out not soon at all, but it's called The Voice of Freedom.
That's a solid title, man. I like it.
Yeah, dude. And that book has been like ruminating in my head forever. That title just came to me 2 weeks ago, like in a meditation, and my whole body just started buzzing, and I was like, that's it. That's the title. And so I'm excited about that.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, I bet you it's going to be a brilliant book. Everything that you've done right now is genuine, and it's really of service. And I'm excited to see how you grow as an individual, how the Soul Feed grows. Definitely go check out the Soul Feed. It's an amazing podcast, and I'm really excited about your book. And definitely go check out my boy. He's got lots of great stuff, lots of free stuff, lots of amazing information. He's kind of like me, where he just is scouring, people. And now we have like resources like the internet, so we can download all these programs. So everything that you put out there is very, very high level and no nonsense, which is why I really like it. So
yeah, man. And congrats to you too for just, you're the perfect example of like giving without expectation and how that really comes back to you. Like, for instance, you reached out to me through Instagram and it was just like, hey, I'd love to help you with this, blah, blah, blah. And normally I don't ever respond to that because I can tell it's like a way to get me to like buy their services, which honestly I do sometimes, you know what I mean? I mean, there's strategies to do things like that. But with you, when I got on the phone with you, I was just like, I was confused because I was like, when is he gonna pitch to me? When is he gonna? And it just didn't happen. And I was just like, wow, this is it's a really great guy. And I just appreciate that you live what you speak. And yeah, man, I'm really excited to see what happens with you. It's gonna be really cool.
awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, I think the same about you. Well, I did have, with the marketing stuff, it was my way in there to meet an amazing person. So, that was my selfish intention.
Of course. And there always is something like that. But at the same time, it's like, people can do that all the wrong ways. And that's what I'm trying to say, right? I get people reaching out to me all the time. It's like, hey, I want to come on your podcast. And I'm like, F you. I don't even know who you are. Like, and don't approach me like that. That's just not cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of common sense. You want to give and then ask if you're going to ask for something,
Totally. And yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that. And for me, the way that I kind of act, and it does take people off guard, is like my mission. I want to raise the consciousness of the planet. I want to help and serve. And so, my little bit of skills in marketing or mindset or whatever I can offer, when I see someone like you and I come across the Soul Feed, I was so inspired, and I was like, I can't believe it. And I was like, I gotta, these guys are willing, like I would love to know them and have a chat, because they think like me. And I was like, if I can serve that mission and even in a little way increase your ripple, then that's what I'm here to do. That's like yogi giving is literally doing without worry about what's going to come back. And I didn't care about selling you any marketing stuff. I cared about really like helping your ripple, because you're doing your work and you're living it. And I can see the genuineness, the authenticity. And so, thank you for that, man, because it's rare. And I think we need more of that. And you are of service. And so, I'm so blessed to be able to spend an hour with you and, share some of your wisdom. And yeah, man, everybody go check out your stuff, because it's going to more amazing stuff to come.
Yeah, dude. We'll talk soon.
Okay, brother. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. And I guess
They did.
Yeah, of course they did. Okay, guys. Love you. See you next week. Bye.